Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Todd Osborne. I am the representative from the Whitney Laboratory. It's a UF installation here in St. Augustine, Florida, and we are at ground zero for the work that's being done on the Super Clam project for the Indian River Lagoon. We are currently just surpassed the 10 million clam mark, and so we have successfully over the last 3 years planted in excess of 10 million clams in the river, which is still a drop in the bucket of the previous clam population. However, we've gotten some good news, and that is in this past year, we've also been able to observe larval clams in the water column. And we call those veligers, but this year we caught them in 2 sites. We were able to detect that active reproduction was happening, and that means that these clam populations are bouncing back, and we're really happy about that. Water quality is still a huge problem in the IRL. That hasn't changed, but even though we had a strong algal bloom last year, our populations did a great job, and they survived that. There were some small fish kills involved, some hypoxia, and a tremendous algal load in the water column that, as everybody knows, really has diminished the seagrasses. But the clams that were planted out there are doing really well. So last year's algal bloom was a little bit mysterious because it took quite a while to figure out what it actually was. The algal cells were so small, they were unable to detect the species of algae by looking at them under the microscope. It was actually a genetic test, and it was a species that is very rarely seen. What we see in the IRL is that it tends to be a different player each time. And sometimes the same species come back and bloom, and sometimes it's different. It's been very difficult to manage those blooms because they're popping up in different locations and they're dominated by different species. All of this points back to the same problem though, which is excess nutrients getting into the system. And I know we've talked about that a lot before, that those nutrients are fueling these things. Now this past bloom did not result in the tremendous fish kills that we anticipated. It was actually, a little more tame this time around, but we did see that happen when that algal bloom crashed. The water column was full of algae all last fall, and we did notice that the growth rings on our clams were pretty big, so that amount of food was very beneficial. It was palatable by the organisms that we were tracking, and so that was very good. Luckily, there was no toxins involved in that algal bloom, unlike some of the ones that we had previously. And so we were a little bit of a reprieve from harmful algal blooms this past year. This year, this coming fiscal year, starting in October, we're planning another 5 million clam release this fall. There's going to be opportunities to be involved in that in October and November, up to Christmas even, into December if the weather holds for us. We have several sites that we're going to plant, mostly in the southern part of Brevard County, closer to Sebastian Inlet. We're going to do a lot of effort down there, and we'll announce that so that we can get some volunteers out to help us. If you know a senator, yes. One major thing everybody can do is tell their elected officials what they want to see. I want you to ask for support for the Clam project. We have that going on from Tallahassee right now, and we're super excited about it. But not just the Clam project, all the projects, all of the effort to improve the ecological integrity of the Indian River Lagoon translates to our economy, translates to our livelihoods in those 7 counties that border it. So everything you ask for, whether it be this project or others, please contact your political representatives and tell them that you want to see effort made to improve the Indian River Lagoon. And that's how we'll get it done. The million-dollar question is how long?
9.2 billion clams or something like that?
Yeah, we've got a ways to go. And in fact, the way things are working now, we're getting more support, more community support, more state government support. Things are really looking good for the program, and our collaborators are increasing exponentially, and that's awesome. And that's a lot to do with you guys. And so thank you very much for getting the ideas out there, for promoting them. We still have a long way to go. I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get back to where we started with clams, but our goals remain the same. We want to get as many of these organisms out there as we can that are reproductively viable, that are going to help do that work for us. So they're not only filtering water and purifying water and reducing the turbidity, which is what we want to do to get our seagrasses back, but they're also reproducing. And if one clam like this can make 1 million eggs, it can happen quickly. We just need to get those guys out there. And so I'm anticipating, we're going to go at this for as long as we can till we see a clean lagoon. And now that's kind of the litmus for us, I think, is that when we're seeing lots of reproduction, we're seeing lots of water clarity, and we're seeing seagrasses come back, then we've hit the mark as far as I'm concerned with a clam restoration project. Two really important things happened this past year. And we were able to go back and look at the first ones that we planted, and we had tremendous success in survival. So we're looking at above 85% survival. I mean, that's better than most commercial operations, right? And they've done it in the lagoon with all the stuff we've had the last couple of years, and they've done a great job. Even with the fish kills and that crazy weird bloom we had a year ago, things survived. The other major find that I think is super important to say is that in our water sampling, in 2 different locations, we saw larval clams, veligers, free-swimming larvae this past year. And that was in the spring, back in March and April. And that means that what we've put out there is actually having some reproductive success. And so that's a huge up for us, in the program itself. And knowing that, they're getting dispersed off of those, what I call the mother reefs or beds that we're creating. Things are being exported from there, live animals, and then they're going to recolonize in places that we don't physically plant, and that's the key, right? That's what we want to do. So the more of these guys that are out there, after a year, they're reproducing, and that's success. Now, so we know that large clams and the big brood stock has been harvested out of the lagoon for a long time now, and our goal is to get these guys back. And oftentimes, what we're hoping to get is these guys back in the water, and then one day they'll be that brood stock, or they'll be the linchpin of the system. However, you can help us. 10 cents per clam is our cost to produce, transport, and replant these guys. And this is what you get for your 10-cent donation. Now, 10 for $1, and you can scale it up from there. But our goal is to get as many of these back in the river as possible. As I mentioned earlier, we've hit the 10 million mark, and we're just a drop in the bucket. So we're hoping to exponentially grow that in the coming years. And when these guys grow up, they have a tremendous effect on the water clarity and quality of the lagoon. And so your contributions go a long way to helping us get there. None of this work is possible without this guy. And we are super excited to have Blair Wiggins involved in this project. He has been the face of the project since its inception and has gotten the word out to everyone who has given us support. And so it's important for me to say this. Thank you, Blair, for all your help, because without you, it wouldn't happen.
Hey, without you guys, without CCA, Starbright, everybody that made the initial donation to get this thing off the ground, once again, thank you guys for helping me get everybody together on this project, because I saw the clams come out of the river, and that's when our river went down the tubes. And it was millions of pounds of clams that came out. But like you said, anything you guys can do to help, do it. And we thank you guys.
Thank you.
Without you guys, there wouldn't be no clams at all in the river. Appreciate it.
Come on! Rock and roll. Good stuff. Thank you, guys.